Hey everybody, this is Flavio Romeo, and on this episode of the Towncast, we had the opportunity of meeting at the Hawthorne Diner, which used to be the old Triangle Diner right on Wagwa Road and Golfer Road, and we met with Jim O'Hagan, owner of the brand new O'Hagan Career Coaching. And he talks about what brought him to this point and how he works with young professionals and senior professionals as well, and everybody in between, male, female, and to be their best selves when they go out there and they're trying to get the best job that they can. So I think you guys are going to enjoy it. All right, enjoy the episode, everybody. All right, everybody, here we are. We are at the Hawthorne Diner. And for you old-timers like us, this used to be called the Triangle Diner. It's right on the corner of Wagwa Road and Golfer Road, right?
Yes,
remember it as a triangle?
Of course. Spent way too much time here.
So it's a Hawthorne Diner. They've got a great menu. They used to have a little tent outside during the pandemic, but it's a great menu. They've got great service. The food is outstanding.
Food's amazing here.
And you can get a great Taylor ham, egg, and cheese here, right? I am with Jim O'Hagan. Jim, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Fabio. I appreciate you, brother.
I think the last time you might have seen Jim was in the episode of I Called Her Mary, the book, which I tell you, every time I talk about it, still brings tears to my eyes.
Thank you.
It really does. The whole
was
story,
amazing, you guys.
And the journey that you guys went through, and your sister Mary. Yeah. It's pretty astonishing. If you guys haven't seen it, scroll down. And if you guys don't subscribe, just subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe, but scroll down, look at all the episodes. Go down to the I Called Her Mary episode. It's a beautiful story. And so that was the last time we saw Jim. But I wanted to catch up with you again because I know you got a lot going on. First of all, we're going to call him Coach. All of is your sister? Is Margaret?
Yeah, Margaret's
She's
probably the
coach
best
too?
coach out of all of us.
So they're all coaches. So this is Coach Jim. Is that what they call it?
That's right. Yeah,
Coach
that's
Jim?
Coach O, Coach Jim.
Coach O.
Yeah.
Coach O. So it's a family full of coaches, but you had quite a journey, right? So what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school in 81.
81, yeah, you were
Yeah,
right.
I'm behind you.
Yeah, you're right behind me. So class of 81, shout out to Hawthorne High School, class of 81.
Yeah, there you go.
And so what happened after high school? Tell me a little bit about
Yeah, after high school, I found myself, in career-wise, going into a sales career. It just seemed to fit.
You felt comfortable?
Yeah, I felt like it was. I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to college. I was.
Where'd you go?
I went to King's College in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I know.
Nice little school.
Cool.
Met my wife there, so it's the best thing that came.
Best
out
school,
of it.
best school around.
Absolutely. Yeah. What is it? The Ivy League of Northeastern Pennsylvania. But no, it was a great experience there. And I remember my junior year, my English teacher, my advisor, I went and sat with him, and he said, "Well, what do you think you want to do?" I'm like, "I have no idea." He said, "Do you want to be a teacher?" I'm like, "I don't think so." I'm like, and he said, "How about going into sales?" My college professor said it to me. I'm like,
really?
Sales? What are you talking about? And the first thing I thought of is like selling refrigerators at PC Richards
Door
or
to
something.
door,
Like,
selling
what the hell am I doing?
brushes.
I'm not going to do that, right? Exactly. He goes, "No, you idiot. Working for a company representing their products and stuff like that." Because King's was really small, and there was a lot of interaction within our classrooms, like with back and forth, So he's like, "No, the way you carry yourself in class, it could be interesting." Maybe something. Okay. So I took a summer class at Montclair State that summer in marketing. I'm like, "Oh, this is really good." So I ended up getting
clicked.
So it clicked. All of a sudden, I don't get a lot of A's on my grades. I'm getting A's and B's on all my grades back at school because it really clicked with me. So that was a blessing, and thank God for Dr. Clem Valletta to help me through that. Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he's still around, but it was a blessing. So I kind of went down the sales route, and was just doing normal sales jobs. Worked for like a large consumer products company, had my company car, did my route, all that kind of stuff. But it just wasn't aggressive enough for me, meaning like I was working really hard and there was like a little bonus at the end of the year as opposed to your efforts being really rewarded.
Right.
So I worked over actually at sales consultants over in Glen Rock.
Yeah.
Those guys actually placed me in my first 2 jobs out of college.
Oh, is that right?
And I started talking to them about, well, what do you guys do here? For some reason, I seem to have a knack with helping my friends prepare for interviews. Even back then. It was weird. Yeah, it was weird. I don't know.
It was all part of coaching.
Well, I guess. But it was, so, and I saw the money that these guys were, told me the money they're making. I'm like, wow. But it was a straight commission situation. So it was really, really hard. But it was a risk-reward kind of thing. And my wife was working at the time. We were having a little apartment that we were living in. So I dipped my toe into that field. And that was my career moving forward.
So sales consultants, companies like that, basically what you're doing is, someone comes in and says, hey, I need some help.
Basically what it is you go to, you find openings at clients. Like, so say someone...
They're like headhunters.
Yeah, exactly. Like headhunters, yeah, exactly. So the company would need a person, and then we would go to the market, recruit them, find them, and put them in. Put them in for their... But mostly that was for permanent opportunities, like perm fee. So it would be okay, you paying somebody $70,000.
Yeah, you weren't a temp agency.
No,
you were positioning people full time, career positions.
Exactly. But then I did that for 5 years. Did well. It was just tough. It was really hard because we didn't get paid till the money came in to our office, and I worked for a tough old Dutch guy who would not. It was really hard. So at the end of the year, I did well.
Dutch guys when it comes to money.
Absolutely. You guys know who I'm talking about. And but it was a great experience. But then one of my best friends still today moved out of recruiting in this and went into this IT staffing world. I'm like, what the hell is that all about?
Well, how long ago was that?
That's
when it was starting to boom.
It kind of was, yeah, because the technology world they didn't have the skill sets to find people. So what they would do is they'd bring in contractors or consultants for a 6-month project or a year project kind of thing. So really high-end people who are really crazy smart, who are going to come in for 6 months and
fix the world,
do whatever they need to do.
Gunslingers, we used to call those guys.
Exactly. So it's exactly the same thing. So I went into that field, but fully well. Never even turned on a computer in my life. Like, we were working on pump cards and folders and stuff. So I'm like, how the hell am I going to do this? And at this point too, my wife is literally 9 months pregnant with our second child.
Second child.
So and we're hurting. We're financially hurting big time. But my wife was amazing. She's like, you still got to go through with this. It's gonna work out. And it was tough. There was some tough times doing it, but it ended up being such a blessing. And did really, really well, thank God. That industry seemed to really hit me better than the perm sales stuff, because it was more relationship based, and that's kind of a strength I have, of building relationships with people. And it went really well, and I was fortunate to grow within the organizations, both financially and corporately, where I was promoted to manager, vice president, senior vice president, managing multiple offices, all those kind of things. So, it turned out really well for me. It was a tough business, a lot of pressure, just dramatic pressure all the time, because it's all about hitting your numbers and
just
goals
as good as your
and all the
last
what you say, you're always only as good as your last phone call. Like, it was that kind of aggressive situation, but I felt really good about it. I felt really blessed to be able to do it. So that's kind of where I went, and then I don't know how much more you want me to tell you, but that's how it started.
So I have a question.
In
all your experience, because I started in sales in '86, reluctantly. So I've been doing it ever since. And you work for great bosses, you work for horrible bosses, and you learn from both.
Mostly horrible, unfortunately.
Yeah, you learn what who you don't want to be,
absolutely,
and then you learn who you would love to be.
Yes.
And I'm going to shout out Jim McCusker, who was my favorite boss I ever had at DeLonghi. And hopefully, I don't know if you subscribe, Jim. If you don't subscribe, you got to
come on, Jim.
And then I had some real terrible bosses who they always talk down to you.
Yes.
And I feel like the good bosses are the ones that lift you up. That you always want to hire your future replacement. That's what I always heard.
That's great.
So you want to groom people and you want to encourage people. Did you feel both of those signs?
100%. And honestly, that's part of the reason I had to get out of it, because I felt like I was like, a lamb surrounded by wolves in a lot of ways, because I always kept a really high moral bar. And I'm like, I would tell my guys and gals all the time.
Which is tough.
Really tough. I'm like, do the right thing. The money will come. Just do the right thing. Yeah. I promise you, if you do the right thing, the money will come. And it was just really, really stressful in that regard, trying to keep that high bar. Yeah. And I kept it. I never caved, but it definitely took a little piece of me. Gotta be honest. Like, I had some health issues and some stuff going on. I probably wasn't the best dad and best husband I could have been a lot during those times, because there was so much pressure, so much stress. And hey, as we all know, living in North Jersey, right? I have 3 children. I got to provide. And I was blessed that it was a good business, that I did really well, but it definitely took a piece of me in some ways. But I always promised myself, because of the way I was managed, I said, when I become a manager someday, I'm not going to manage like that, because I know how much it would have helped me if my manager responded in the way that I needed, as opposed to, why don't you just do this? Right. Have you done that? So I promised myself.
It's like, instead of browbeating, instead of whipping somebody into submission.
It really was that.
Coach me.
And I don't want to sound soft in it, but it runs on you for a while.
Absolutely.
So it was a great business. Thank God I did really well with it.
How long were you doing that for?
I did it for almost 34 years.
Wow. And you must have started when you were like 9?
Yeah, I wish. Thank you. No, I started when I was, 25. Yeah, 25. So, just married, started then. And that's actually when I started coaching, too. Coaching basketball when I was 25. Yeah, it was crazy.
So you played in high school?
Played high school.
What coaches did you play under?
Oh gosh, I coached DeMayo. Loved him.
Everybody.
I really had great high school coaches. Coach DeSalvo, Matarazzo, Ralph Youngquist.
I know a lot of you.
Neil Hancock.
I know a lot of you guys are listening, so this is testimony to
Jim Spinella. I mean,
what
just
you guys did.
Unbelievable mentors for me. Like the coaches I've had. The best. And to me, Mr. Greenwood, oh my God, Lex trusted me.
It's hard to say that. It's hard to call by their first name.
I know it is. It's still hard for me to do that. Like him trusting me as like a 135-pound sophomore to be on the field. I'm like, what the heck's he thinking? But he believed in me. Yeah. So the confidence that gives you is incredible.
And see that to me, to be a manager, or to be a business coach, a professional coach. You've got to have that core. Because
thank you.
Having that background and having the coaches that you had, and I know a lot of you guys had the same kind of coaches. It sticks with you, and it's like so even though when you're coaching people and you're managing people, you're not thinking, oh yeah, well, I remember Coach DeMayo used to say this all the time. It's just
part of you.
It's part of you. Yeah,
it's so funny. A really funny story.
Absolutely. Do you want to order or not?
We're gonna order in a little while.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
thank you though.
Right.
I hear Neil Hancock in my head all the time when I coach, because I coached basketball was really my sport that I coached. And I coached girls because I had daughters. So I hear me saying things that he said.
Really?
All the time. And another funny story, I remember my oldest daughter played basketball for Cedar Grove High School, and they were scrimmaging Hawthorne. I got to go to this scrimmage. I'm walking in the gym, and I hear Hancock's voice. I'm like,
no.
Because he had coached, I guess he went back and started coaching the girls. Again.
Wow.
And I'm like, and I hear him, like, I'm just getting chills saying it now, but I'm like, holy smokes, that's my coach. I hear his voice, It's like walking into the gym.
He's played against your girls.
He's coaching against my daughter. And they beat us, too, I think. Of course he did, because Neil Hancock coached.
Right, exactly.
I think when Neil started coaching us, this is how old I am, that was his first year as a varsity basketball coach.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was his first year. That was 1980, I think.
He convinced me to be an umpire.
Oh,
yeah. So
nice.
I was umping.
That's awesome. Did you do that with Mr. Krieger in town?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too. I was an ump too.
Yeah,
all my friends were umps. Yeah. We got like $8 a game.
It was great. That was when parents were normal.
Yeah, kind of.
Charging them. I mean, we still had some. What do you mean? That's a strike.
I had to run a few.
Yeah. That's the best. That's fun.
That was fun. Yeah, no, those were great days. Those are great days.
So
no
you
doubt.
do this for 35 years, and so where are you now?
Right now, I'm at a beautiful place. I'll give a little context. About 9 years ago, I've sort of had a renewal of my faith walk, and started attending a different church. Grew up Catholic, but I started attending this other church that's more, I guess, Protestant.
What church?
It's called Emergence Church. It's
Oh, yeah,
over in
yeah,
Totowa.
Emergence. Yeah, it was in Wayne, right?
It's in Totowa.
Total, wasn't it? Oh, it was right on the border.
Yes.
Yeah. Friends of mine went to.
Yes, exactly. It's right near.
Jay, I don't know if you knew Jay Van Hoff. Maybe not.
I love Jay Van Hoff.
Jay Van Hoff.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he was my best friend.
I love that
They
guy.
moved out to Michigan.
He did program. Him and his beautiful wife did program with me at Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Lighthouse, like doing one of our programs called Birth of a Family.
Yeah.
Where oh my gosh, I love him.
Yeah.
They just moved back out to Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michigan,
Oh my gosh, I love that guy. That's
my
such
fishing
a
buddy.
small world. Oh wow, great guy, great guy, and a pastor. Like
Yeah. Well,
wonderful guy.
he was because I also grew up Catholic. Going to St. Anthony's, and then started going to New Life Ministries, which was in Midland Park at the time,
Yep.
and then we kind of bounced around.
Yeah.
We were at American Legion for a while.
Okay, yeah, that's where he was. Yeah.
And then so he was our pastor.
Yeah.
And then God moved him into said, hey, you got to move to Michigan. So
Yeah.
that's a sad chapter, but
Yeah,
sad
I
to
get
see
that.
him
Yeah, I
go.
miss him. It's
Yeah.
but when you just said that, growing up Catholic and now your faith is not changed, but just like a different view.
Yeah.
You can understand this, right?
Absolutely.
Like where I was so moved by what was going on with the different emphasis with things, and every time I went to church, I felt like the pastor was talking right to me.
Absolutely.
and the emphasis on giving back and doing right and being a good leader, being a good man, like all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, and I'm stuck in this world, not to sound crazy, but of sin, of all this like greed and it's only
golden
about
ring,
money.
golden ring.
Yeah, right. It's only about money, and I don't care about your feelings or anything like that. So, my wife started volunteering at Lighthouse Pregnancy Resource Center several years ago.
Lighthouse, and actually we had Debbie Preventure. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't heard it, we had her on the audio because we started when we started the Towncast. It was audio only. So make sure you go anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, iHeartRadio. Just scroll back, look down. I think it was last year we had Debbie on talking about Lighthouse, and it's a great organization. You could look it up, Lighthouse PRC.
Yep.
Right. You could look it up online, and it's amazing.
It's a beautiful ministry, and what we do is we walk alongside of young couples, families, single folks who are in pregnancy crisis, having an unplanned pregnancy, and we provide counseling and support and material aid for them, and we have so many wonderful programs within the organization that help so many different folks, and it's really a beautiful
So
thing.
what are you doing there now?
Yeah, so there I'm actually called the Family Outreach Director, so which is kind of like the men's ministry leader.
Oh, okay.
So to Debbie's wonderful credit, she saw like sort of an opening or a gap in sort of the relationship or in the equation of people going through pregnancy issues, where the guys kind of get pushed to the side a little bit. And a lot of times they have such an influence on the decision that the lady makes that they're kind of pushed to the side and their feelings aren't there. So being a man, I work with those guys a lot. Try to be a mentor to them, whatever, counselor, coach, yeah, exactly, all that good stuff. Yeah, so I've been doing that as a counselor there for June will be 2 years full time.
Wow, nice.
And
Good for you. God bless.
I volunteered there for about a year. And my wife
loved it.
And I loved it. Yeah. My wife and I worked together on one of the programs that we do. My wife actually started volunteering there, and then she dragged me by the, I can say hair, but that's not happening. But she dragged me to one of the banquets for a fundraiser, and I was so moved by it that I literally called Debbie the next day and said, I need to be part of this.
Yeah.
And that's what
Wasn't she in your class?
Yeah, I know her since 7th grade.
Right, you guys
Yeah,
graduated
it's crazy.
together.
It's crazy. Yeah, she's an angel.
There are no
absolute
accidents,
angel.
no coincidences in life.
I hear that, and that's part of something I'm working through.
Which is why
but it's
we're
true
here today.
Yeah, exactly true. So it's been a real blessing.
That's awesome.
Over there, and I think what's blown me away too is I feel like everything's kind of driven me to this. The pandemic was awful, but in an odd way, it was a blessing for us because I sold my house. Thank God, did really well with that. I'm living in an apartment now. My wife and I completely downsized because we had a long-term plan, because I knew I couldn't do the staffing thing forever because it was going to kill me. But I also had this desire to want to give back and do something meaningful, because it wasn't just about making people wealthy anymore. And that was because of my change in my faith walk. Is that I got to do something. I'm compelled to, as a Christian, to give back. I'm compelled to be a good person. Like all those wonderful things that we learned growing up, like I needed to practically apply.
You actually have to do it.
That's what I'm saying. Like when the pastor would speak, I'm like, he's talking right to me. So all these things kind of came together, and I feel like God drove me on the bus right to the Lighthouse.
Right.
And so it's been going really well. And the other side of it too is I cannot believe how much what I've done in my career is carrying over to Lighthouse, because so many of our folks really are underserved in terms of working. A lot of them are poverty stricken, unfortunately, and I've coached a lot of people now in how to interview, how to do your resume, how to kind of present yourself.
So while you're coaching them with family decisions, that comes up.
Yes.
So that kind of segues perfectly into your new business, and I really want to get into. Tell me the name of your new company.
Yeah, it's O'Hagan Career Coaching Services, and a really creative name.
Where'd you get that name?
I know, right? I was going to do a different name, but my family's like, no, you got to get the name. Like,
yeah, you got to promote the name.
But thank God, most of the reputation is good for
Yeah.
O'Hagan's. Thank God to my brothers and sisters. So this is something I've been wanting to do my whole life. I got to be honest.
And you have been. I mean,
I have
in a way
been.
you have been.
And I have been. Yes, I've been doing it in my job because my entire career, my income completely depended upon this person doing well in an interview.
Right.
So I'm from Hawthorne. I'm going to take that seriously.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I learned so much where I made mistakes, where people made mistakes on interviews, like maybe not presenting themselves the best way or not going in with the right attitude. So I have all this knowledge in my head about how that's happened, and I love coaching people. So it's like this really nice mix of things. I've been coaching for 30 years. I've been doing this for 35 years. It's very natural to me, and I absolutely love doing it.
Yeah.
And seeing, like we were talking before, like seeing the light bulb go off in someone when they come in and they're not necessarily feeling confident in things, because confidence is everything in this.
Well, and the corporate world will kill your confidence. I mean, it will just
100%.
absolutely cut you off at the knees.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like their job to
It's
do
their
that.
job,
It should
exactly.
break you.
When you would think that
Yeah.
good managers, good bosses, they're supposed to lift you up,
Yeah, exactly.
because it lifts the company up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not always like that.
True. No,
Right?
unfortunately.
Right, guys?
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm sure everyone can relate to that. So I feel like this is a really good mix of my skill set of coaching and desire, and I'm really excited about it. And
So it's O'Hagan. So you have a website.
yes, I do.
All right, let's shout that out.
Okay, it's O'Hagan Career Coaching. I can't say it that well. OCCS.com.
O'Hagan
Career Consulting. CareerCoaching.com.
Okay.
Sorry.
O'Hagan.
Career-
CareerCoaching.com.
Yes.
And leave the apostrophe out.
Yeah, no
after the
apostrophe. No
Just
apostrophe.
O'Hagan. OHAGAN.
GAN. Career Coaching.com.
Coaching.
My gosh.
Keep putting consultant in
I
there.
keep saying consulting because I did consulting for so many years.
So all the coaching, DeMayo, all those guys, Matarazzo, all the guys that coached you, it's now come full circle.
Yeah.
And now here you are coaching.
Exactly.
So
I love it.
if someone goes to your website and says, I need some help. I got to get out of my job. I want to get into a new position. I have an interview coming up. I'm nervous. Tell me a little bit about some of the calls you've been getting.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's been what it is? We have a couple of offerings. Like there's one session. One offering is one session. We just sit down, and the first session would be free. Like first initial consultation, phone call. We talk, kind of figure out what you need, where it's going to go. So we have the gold package and the silver package.
So you're going to offer. So anybody that calls, do you know your phone number off the
Yeah,
top of your head?
201-303-1958.
201-303-1958. So anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching, they can call up. They can say, I want to talk to Jim. I want to talk to Coach Jim, Coach O,
Whatever you want to call me.
and,
Just call me.
and they'll get a free consultation.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Free consultation.
Okay.
Yep.
So they
And then
call up.
They call up, and then we talk. We just just talk it through because everyone's situation is different.
Yeah.
Right. So let's just say it's you, for example. Right.
I need a lot of coaching.
You haven't interviewed in a while. Right. You and I can sit down and probably in one session and be like, all right, brother, this is where you need to go. You need to tune that up. Right. Just be sharper with these kind of things. Help you develop answers to some of the really tough questions, like tell me about yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses?
I want to talk about
yeah,
that. Keep
like
going, but I
those
do want to
questions
talk
that
about
scare the heck out of everybody,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I can help with that to make it really, really natural and really simple, because those are the kind of things that make people really anxious, right? So you and I could probably bang that out in one session. So that's one, however, an hour session, right? Somebody else might need 2 sessions, right? So that's the gold package, right? Where it's like, okay, we'll do everything in the first session, like figuring things out, and then what I'll do is I'll give them a template of tools to work on so they can sort of develop their story and develop their pitch and how they're going to go after it. And then in the second meeting, I'll do a really hardcore mock interview.
You're really
Focusing, asking really the tough questions and saying, okay, so tell me about yourself. And you practice. You've already practiced it from the first night, and now it's very iterative at that point where we're going to work it through and be like, okay, hey brother, try this, try it this way. That's good, but you need to bring it this way. That kind of thing, and just really build confidence in you to make things happen.
And it's so funny because after all these years, 30, this will be my 37th year in my business.
Wow.
And I've self-employed since 14.
God bless you.
So I really
Beast.
I give you a lot of respect. It's not easy.
No,
But the questions never change.
they don't change.
The questions in interviews are always the same,
Absolutely.
which is crazy.
It's crazy, but it's true, and they've changed a little bit too, where they're getting more asking you questions. Oh, tell me about a situation that you had a really tough manager, or you had a really tough, tight deadline, but you had a senior vice president come in and throw a wrinkle into it.
Oh, okay.
How did you handle it?
Oh, that's good.
Now, if you're not prepared for that,
Just say that never happened to me.
right, then that's not true.
Never had that
right?
happen.
But again, it gets back to being prepared, and those are the kind of things that we would talk through.
You're giving them the tools to put in the toolbox so they can take that to that interview.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
And then what I try to get them to think is think almost like in triggers, right? So are you asking me about my work history right now in a question? Are you asking me how I grew up? What kind of person I am? You're asking about my work history? Or are you asking me about why you should hire me?
So
Right?
do people ask those questions? Like, so
Absolutely.
do you encourage people? Like, if you're the boss and it's amazing. Like, are you? Let me just so I understand. Are you asking me about my personal history, about my work history?
You can push
Bring
back
it back on that.
Yeah, you can push back. Like sometimes
That's
they might
good.
say,
That's good
well,
advice.
tell me about yourself. And like, a response could be, well, you want to know about me personally or my professional? So you answer it correctly. Like that's a skill. Or what I'm teaching guys and people, is
I call it. By the way, I call everybody guys. I apologize.
Me too, yeah,
I know
sorry, it's our age.
It's not politically correct.
I'm
Which
sorry.
everybody's guys.
I have 3 daughters, so. But I try to teach them to bring both in. Bring both your personal
and your business.
and your business. Like if you asked me that question, I'd be like, well, yeah, I grew up in a really strong family where, as far back as I can remember, work ethic was hammered into my DNA.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then that's my story.
It diffuses, but
Yeah.
but also it makes it conversational.
Exactly.
So it's not always me against you or you against me. Now it's a conversation.
Right, and that's what I want, and those are the skills I try to give folks because it's so important. The key to any interview is for them to put the resume to the side, meaning like I like this person.
Right. Because they have to like.
And now I have to. Sorry, I can talk a lot on this, but like the first 5 seconds are so important. Like that warm greeting, handshake, being gracious, grateful. Most managers have made their decision in the first 5 minutes if they're going to hire you or not.
Yeah.
And then they spend the rest of the time either confirming or denying that.
Interesting.
So it's so important to make a really good impression. It's so important to be really prepared. It's so important. And I can help with all that stuff. Like literally give you the tools that your confidence will be right at the top of the line. So when that question comes, it's like, okay, he's asking me about this. Boom, I got it. So what I'd like them to do is in all of those kind of lanes, is it is it personal? Is it my job? Is it this? Have 2 or 3 stories in each lane that you're ready to go with.
Right.
Like, okay, tell me about a time that you had a difficult thing. Okay, I've got 3 or 4 of those stories very easily. I'm going to bring them right to the table right away when that comes up. And it helps.
And coaching changes whether you're talking to the manager that you might eventually work for, or you're just talking to an HR person.
Exactly.
Because you have that first layer, completely impersonal. They don't really care about.
Yep.
But they're the first filter. And
Yes.
you got to get through them. So I mean, that's something you've got to know ahead of time. It's like, who are you meeting with? You're meeting with this person or that president of the company, future boss.
Yep.
Because I agree with you. When you're talking to your future boss, he wants to know, I need to be able to work with this guy.
Trust you.
I need to trust him. I need to be able to coach. He's got to be coachable.
Yep.
He's got to have a good personality. We got to get along. Because we're going to work with them. They'll last you 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 20-year plan. If I got to work with this guy for 10 years, I want to know I can. But when you're going with HR, it's like
True.
It's like talking for anybody that watches The Office. It's like talking to Toby in The Office.
Yeah, exactly. No offense to HR people.
No, not at all. So you work through that as well.
Absolutely. I work through all of it, honestly. And then, because like we were talking earlier before, it's like it's confidence. It's having that confidence. A lot of people will say, like, well, I'm not that outgoing, or I'm not this or whatever. But it's like, well, not today.
Right.
Today, you're all in. You're all in to be, because if you were to say, it's your job, man. My family, my health, and my job, and my faith. Like, I'm not judging you by putting your job in there, right? Because job is important to all of those kind of things. So if you're going in for an interview, like I always say to my guys, like, would you go into a test and not study? Why would you go into an interview not loaded for everything that you could be?
And most people, they don't know how to prepare.
They don't, and it's not their fault. It's literally not their fault. They just don't know. It's not taught, and I don't mean this offensively. I can tell so many stories. I had this one kid that I coached a few years back. Met with him, sat with him, and he's like, I said, "So tell me about yourself, Dave." And he goes right to his resume, and he was right out of college. He's like, yeah, well, I took this class, I took that class, and it was nice, it was fine. But I said to him, Dave, hold on a second. Are you the kid that when I go mountain biking on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, I see you at the garden center working? He says, yeah, that's me. I said, when I come back later at 5 or 6 o'clock, doing errands or whatever, and you're still there, is that the same guy? He's like, yeah. So what did you learn from that?
Yeah.
Well, I had to save money because I had to pay for college. I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. What else did you learn? Well, I ended up buying my truck because of that. I'm like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Well, what were your friends doing while you were doing all that? Well, they were down the shore partying. Yeah. I'm like, there's your story.
That's it. Yeah.
There's your story. Because a lot of things, especially the young people, they don't feel like they have a story to tell.
Everybody has a story.
Everybody's got a story of how you were raised and how you were, what drives you, right? And the good news is, as a young person, you're not interviewing against a guy like me. You're interviewing against your peers.
Right.
So let's knock them out of the park and be really ready for it, right? By having a good narrative, a good theme, a good story about the kind of person you are, right? They don't necessarily care that you worked as a waiter at Hawthorne Diner, but what did you learn from that?
Right.
Why did you have to do that?
Teach you?
Like I had to pay for all of my college, 100%. My dad had some health issues. My brothers and I were in college at the same time. I worked 3 jobs during school to pay for everything. I never asked my parents for a nickel because we didn't have it and it was tough timing. What did I learn from that? Oh my gosh, I learned how to strategize. I learned how to multitask. I learned how to work under pressure. Right? So when I came out of college, that's my story. Right? So that's what I love doing, is especially with the young people, is working through stuff like that, and then all of a sudden light bulbs going off, and then helping them with the tactical of the questions. Right. And then having them in their own natural way. That's the key. It can't be canned. It has to be their natural voice.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't script them.
No. It's not scripting. It's giving triggers. It's giving tips.
It's opening
and helping
up,
them prepare.
Yeah. And it's not only. I mean, I love that you're working with kids, because that's the biggest challenge, coming right out of college or right out of high school. But you're also working with people that are midlife. It could be haven't interviewed in 25 years. Company closed down, downsized, were bought by another company. Now they're out on the street again.
Exactly.
So you're working with people in that age.
It's just, it's kind of like, so far, it's only been a couple months, but like, it's 50-50 in that. Like, I had this one wonderful, more mature lady, like our age, who worked at a pharmaceutical company for many, many years and just was moved from one place to a next and never really had to interview for her next position.
Right.
Now they're having a big cut, layoff on that. And I always go into every session with, hey, I'm a coach. I coach little kids and I coach high school kids, right? So,
and everybody has to be coached differently.
Exactly. So that's what I kind of give them. I said, I have a deck prepared here to go through, but I don't necessarily teach a high school kid how to dribble with his left hand, right? But no one's too big for the basics. So you tell me where we need to be. So I'm almost assuming this more mature lady is like, oh, I got this stuff. So I start going through like the real basic stuff. She goes, that's what I need. I haven't had to answer a question like that in 20 years. Wow. So it's just like, oh my gosh. So we worked through it. Yeah, we worked through it, and her confidence is soaring. She's got a couple of interviews coming up, hoping like heck that's going to happen for her, and it just feels great, like just to see her confidence rise because I have the knowledge to help her. Yeah. So it feels really good. It feels really good.
It's O'Hagan.
CareerCoaching.com.
There you go. All right, no consulting.
I'm sorry. I've been in consulting forever.
CareerCoaching.com. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you're watching and you've got kids that are graduating college this year and they're going to be out looking for jobs or they're looking for internships, or kids graduating high school this year and he's going to go out and look for jobs, it doesn't matter. You always have to interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to get that coaching and prepare, shout out your phone number again. It's 201
303 1958.
There you go. So give Jim a call and just talk to him and say, here's my situation, or here's my son's situation, or a family friend. It doesn't matter. There's age, or yourself. If you find yourself, I can't believe it. It's like dating. The people that get divorced.
I use that example all
after
the time.
20 years, it's like, I don't even know how to talk to another person. You know what I mean? So
it's true. I use that example interviewing.
Yeah, because you work for somebody for 20 years. I'm like, now what do I do? Yeah. I'll give you one quick anecdote. So I worked for several factories in China, and when I was on my own and I was talking to a lot of people, a lot of friends in China were helping me out. So I did a lot of work with factories, and I had some great friends out there. And I had this one interview, and this is the difference between interviewing in the U.S. and interviewing in China.
I bet.
His very first question his questions were, are you married? Do you have kids? How old are you? Do you plan on having more kids? And his very last question was, okay, after the whole interview, now I have to ask you, are you a good drinker? And so, any good coach would say, throw it back on them. What do you mean, good drinker?
What do you mean? That's kind of vague. What do you mean by that?
Right. Well, how many bottles of wine can you drink? And I said, well, if I had to, I could probably.
If you're forcing me.
And how many, or how much time? Let's get specific. So it was interesting.
You need to quantify that question.
You're not going to have those kind of questions when you go out into the workplace.
If they ask you that, you run.
Yeah. Yeah, find another job.
You don't want to work there.
Yeah. So, Jim, I wish you a lot of luck.
I appreciate you so much.
I love what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
The coaching background just kind of lends itself so perfectly to what you're doing, both at Lighthouse and now for your own consulting company, coaching company. It's not consulting.
See, I'm confusing you now.
Coaching company.
But it's all good. It's all consulting.
So get a hold of Jim, talk to him, and let him at least give you the tools to prepare. Because, like you said, you can't just take a test without studying. So let him give you the tools to prepare to get you ready for whatever's in your future.
And the other side too, to the parents, like you paid all this money for your kid for school.
Yeah.
Let's get them ready. Like let's let that all be a culmination. And again, I don't mean this in any negative way. A lot of the career coaching places, schools, they don't get into the depth of it. They can't. It's too much to do. Yeah. And it's really like a whole nother niche. It really is. Like helping people interview is a very specific skill set as opposed to putting your resume together. Resume being together is completely critical, but it's not the only thing. It really isn't. It's really knowing those skills. And the other thing too, giving them the right questions to ask the client. to show that they're prepared, and
Yeah.
helping them with the researching the company, all those good things.
Well,
It's a lot.
oftentimes you're sending your resume in, that might get a phone call, but it's when resume, resume is a piece of paper, and when they meet you face to face, they want to know who you are.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean that's, like you said, you can find templates online
Yeah.
to do a resume, but the important part is getting the coaching to get in there and just present your best self.
Exactly. And then the thing is, too, it's so hard to get an interview these days that when you get one, you better be ready.
Right.
You got to be ready, right? You have to be taken as seriously as you can.
Get yourself ready. Call Jim, and a shout out to all the past coaches in the O'Hagan's
Yeah, man.
lives and all the coaches that coached you when you were younger, that prepared you
Influenced,
for,
yeah.
for where you are today. So I really appreciate it. Jim.
Thank you, my
Thanks
dear
so
brother.
much.
Love
I
you,
wish you all the
man.
best.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you. See you guys.
And go visit the website, give Jim a call, and he's going to help you, family, friends, pass the word around, because it's competitive out there, and to be able to prepare yourself the best you can is going to give you a leg up on your competitors, right?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Thank
Jim.
you, brother. Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Be well, everybody.
Take care.